Yet more players are being linked with Nottingham Forest as the summer window activity and rumours begin. But is Che Adams really the type of player that Forest need? Welcome to your Forest transfer news. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are. Whatever time of day you're watching this, hope you're having a fantastic day. And welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest transfer news. Coming up in today's video, we'll be talking about the heavy links between Forest and Southampton for their striker, if you can use that word, Che Adams. We'll be talking about the future of Serge Aurier. And of course, we've got loads more to cover within this episode. So make sure you hit that like button. And if you are new to Forest Fan TV, please don't forget to subscribe. And remember, you only have 24 hours to go win this, that signed framed Lodi shirt. There are only about 20 tickets left, so make sure you grab them now. Let's get into the news and let's start with this new story on Che Adams. Che Adams is a striker that was linked with Forest last summer, a striker that I put in the Mopé category, a striker that I don't think is even Premier League quality. But forget my opinions for now, let's talk about the rumours that are flying around. He's into his final year in his Southampton contract and is most likely going to be moved on before they end up losing him for free. It's going to be for a cut price as well. I can't see him costing a lot. So one of the suitors that are interested are Nottingham Forest. But as I just mentioned, is he the type of striker we now need? Having now survived in the Premier League, let me repeat that, Forest is still Premier League. Is this the player that would progress us to that next stage that will help Forest to rise higher up in the Premier League? And I think the answer to that is categorically no. I don't know why we're being linked to players of this caliber. Also, as a striker, would he challenge Awoniyi into the first team? For me, I still think Taiwo is the better striker, and I would like to see if Forest are in for the market for a striker to go for someone with a higher pedigree. Maybe a Ramos, maybe that's an overstretch, I don't know. But for me, he's not the one. What he may be brought in for, though, is as a replacement for Sam Surridge, as Sam Surridge is looking likely to leave Forest potentially on loan and potentially back into the Championship. Would this move make more sense if it was about Che Adams coming in for Surridge rather than Che Adams coming in for a fighting position with Awoniyi? Now, is he Premier League quality? I think that's the real discussion point here. And can he bring Forest goals? Does he strengthen our squad? And my opinion is no. He was in Southampton. Look, sorry, Mike, man, but they were the poorest team in the league. The table doesn't lie. They finished 20th. But even his goal return wasn't good. I prefer their other striker, Alcatraz, or whatever his name is. He showed a bit more about him. He even scored against Forest. I remember when we went to Southampton earlier on in the season, Adams had a chance within about 7-8 minutes, something like that, to go 1-0 up, and he drags it wide. And I had no confidence in him scoring anyway, so I wasn't worried when he went through. But this has been the story of his career. There have been some spurt moments in there. There have been little streaks where he has managed to score goals, but he's not consistent. I honestly put him in that Mopé category. And for me, I am totally 100% against this link. Look, links and rumours now don't mean anything in the bigger scheme of things. We've still got Crystal Palace coming up this weekend. So I don't expect massive movements to happen or confirmations of signing until we get into June. But this one is not showing me the intent that I want to see from our club over the summer. I want to see a club that's starting to progress, starting to try and attract those bigger names. Don't expect us to get 29, 30 signings this season. What I would like to see personally is 4 or 5 big or decent names, shall we say. Look, let's know where we are. Let's understand our station here. But I still think we have the attraction to bring in some of those decent players. And we will do a video on my shopping list, and I want to know what your guys' shopping list will be for the summer. But I wouldn't even prioritize a striker as the main position we need. Taiwo, we've backed him all season here on FFTV. I've been impressed with him. Yes, he's not pretty on the eye, but don't tell me that our team dynamics didn't change when we had a striker playing up front. Yes, not out on the left, up front. And the goal returns he brought in late in the season and how important they were for our Premier League survival. So for me on this Che Adam one, unless it's like a free transfer or a couple of mil or as a replacement for Sam Surridge, I'm not for it. I really am not. But at the same time, Taiwo's injury status this season hasn't been great. He's been out for a few months, especially when he started to hit form in January. So could Che Adams work as a backup? Yes, he could. But there are plenty of other names I think that I would put ahead of him. The only name that doesn't go ahead of him for me is Mopé. But get your thoughts in below. Would you take Che Adams at Forest or not? The second story I want to talk to you about is Serge Aurier, who has come to the end, or is coming, should I say, to the end of his contract with Forest. Now, there was talks that we told you about earlier in the year where discussions happened between the club and Serge Aurier about extending that contract out for at least another season. And the talks were that had Forest survived, or if Forest do survive, man, I got to get the words out of my mouth, then Serge Aurier would be given the option for the contract to be extended. And he is very keen on staying at Nottingham Forest. We brought him back into the Premier League after his time at Spurs, his time abroad, and he came back and he's really enjoying his time here at Forest. However, with Jed Spence, yes, my beloved Jed Spence, with his loan period finishing at Rennes in France and his return back to Spurs, Rennes are looking for a replacement for him, and the talks are that they are interested in Serge Aurier. Now, as far as I can tell, this is flattery for Serge rather than something he would be interested in. So I fully expect to see Serge Aurier still in the Forest Red come next season. And I think he would be a great signing because he has been, especially in the first half of the season, I would have had him as one of our players of the season. And yes, he did have a few dodgy performances. I think back to the Fulham one. I think back to a couple of others where he's been caught out of position, or when he's played at right wing back in the back three formation. For me, he's a much better right back. But with Nico Williams, with Biancone still to come back now that he's recovered from his injury, we do have depth in that position. But I still think Serge is the number one choice for us at right back. The only person I'd contemplate replacing him for would be Spence himself, but that's just the nostalgia talking. How do you feel about this story? And do you think Serge will still be at the City Ground come August this summer? All right, let's move on to a further update on Renan Lodi. Now, Lodi did have, as we mentioned yesterday, a 25 to 30 million option to buy, but Forest have let that expire. Now, it's not bad news because what Forest have done is spoken to Atletico Madrid, and we do want Renan Lodi. And there is talks that Lodi is actually interested in staying at Nottingham Forest, but we don't want to pay the agreed loan to buy option on him. We want it for less money. Now, the noises coming out from Atletico Madrid are that actually they would be interested in lowering that price and allowing Lodi to go for a cheaper fee because he's not in Simeone's plans anymore. However, that comes with its own problems because we had that loan to buy option, it meant that had we decided, we basically had first refusal, as long as, of course, Lodi agreed to join us. But now, with that expiring, it does mean that his options open up. And there are potential other clubs that will be looking for a left back this summer. And the top of that list is probably Newcastle United, who are desperate to get a decent left back. And the idea of Lodi going to Newcastle actually makes a lot of sense. He's got a year under his belt now in the Premier League. He understands the culture a little better. He's a little more settled. So moving from Forest to Newcastle may not be as much of a culture shock. Well, until he hears the Geordie accent. Sorry, Spacebar, I love you guys. But, you know, a Brazilian coming in, understanding Geordie slang, could be interesting to see. But I still do feel that the club wouldn't have done this or risked it had they not had decent conversations already with Atletico Madrid. So I do feel that there is going to be some compromise reached. It may come down to 20 million because remember, we've already paid 5 million for a loan fee on him, and that can't be taken out of context or out of account in terms of how much we'll be spending on Lodi. So do I think Lodi will be at Forest? I think this one depends on Lodi. I think Forest are interested enough. I think Atletico Madrid are willing to sell. It will come on what he and his family wants to do. And we will find out, no doubt about it, very, very soon. But it looks more positive now about Lodi, even though the risk on it has increased significantly. Just want to do a quick shout out to the boys on Beat the Drop last night. I hope for all of you guys who tuned in, you enjoyed the show. There was a lot of banter. A lot of weird things going on as well. If you haven't seen it already, make sure you check it out after this video as we discussed who was going down between Leeds, Everton and Leicester. Yeah, that's right. Forest were not involved in that conversation and it was such a joy to host it. So thank you to all the boys there. Make sure you subscribe to all their channels as well as here if you're not subscribed, because about 35% of you are currently not subscribed to Forest Fan TV. But that brings you up to date today with all your latest Forest transfer news. There are a few other very loose stories about a Middlesbrough midfielder coming to Forest. Not so convinced about that one. And a few others, but we will bring you the transfer news as it happens, when it happens here on FFTV. So make sure if you haven't already, you hit that like button, subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new, and we will see you on the next transfer update. But don't forget, there's still one more game to go, and of course we'll have that for you this weekend as Forest travel down to Crystal Palace. And can we finish ahead of Bournemouth? A whole match preview and live stream as always will be here on Forest Fan TV. Thank you so much for watching. Go grab your Lodi shirt as we've just spoken about him, and come on, you Reds.